What would you do if you found out that the man you just helped warm up was actually your long-lost brother? Today we tell you the touching story of a young woman who saved a homeless man, only to discover an incredible truth. Stay with us until the end, because this story has a twist that will leave you speechless. You won't want to miss the incredible transformation of a homeless man and the surprising family reunion. But before we start, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss other exciting stories like this one. On a cold winter night, Giulia, a young woman of 27, was walking home in a heavy snowfall. As she walked through the snowy streets, the freezing wind cutting her face, she tripped over something soft hidden under a white blanket of snow. He was a homeless man, wrapped in an old, worn cloak, trying to survive the biting cold. Heartbroken by his condition, Giulia decided to offer him hospitality. "You can't spend the night here, it's too cold," she said, inviting him to her home. The man, whose name was Marco, reluctantly accepted, surprised by the young woman's generosity. When they arrived home, Giulia prepared him a hot soup and offered him a hot bath. "You can use my brother's clothes," he said, indicating a pair of clean towels. Marco, who couldn't remember the last time he'd had the opportunity to take a hot shower, was visibly moved. Eyes shining, he entered the bathroom and closed the door behind him. The warm water on his cold skin almost hurt at first, but it slowly began to relax, washing away layers of grime and tiredness that had accumulated over the years. In the meantime, Giulia continued to prepare the soup, hoping that it could restore some strength and warmth to that man. Her mind went back to the past years, to her brother Luca, who had died 7 years earlier in a tragic bus accident. It had been a wound that had never healed for her and her parents. As Marco shaved and washed his hair, he looked at himself in the mirror. His own image surprised him. Who was that man reflected? He was almost unrecognizable even to himself. He felt a strange sensation, as if something important was about to happen. Before we continue, we would like to know, what would you have done in Giulia's place? Would you have invited a stranger to your home? Let us know in the comments below. When Marco came out of the bathroom, Giulia was speechless. "Luca, it's you," she exclaimed, discovering that the homeless man was actually her twin brother, who had disappeared 7 years earlier. Tears streamed down her face as she ran to hug him, feeling her heart explode with joy and disbelief. Before finding out how Luca became homeless, give us a nice like and subscribe to the channel by activating the notification bell. Support us to continue bringing incredible stories like this. Luca, or Marco as he was called for years, had disappeared in a tragic bus accident. He had lost his memory and wandered from city to city, living as a homeless person. After the accident, he was found unconscious and without documents in a remote area. Without memory, without a name, he had been called Marco by the other homeless people who had welcomed him into their community. Memories of the accident began to slowly resurface. He remembered being thrown from the bus during the crash, waking up in the snow with terrible confusion. He wandered aimlessly, trying to figure out who he was and where he came from. Nights spent seeking shelter under bridges and in parks had become his new reality. Meanwhile, Luca's family had never stopped looking for him. Giulia's parents had hired private investigators, distributed flyers, and used local media to try to find some trace of their lost son. Year after year, hope had faded, but Giulia had always felt that Luca was still alive somewhere. The reunion with the family was emotional. The parents, devastated by his loss, could not believe their eyes. "My son, it's really you," his mother cried through tears. His father, his voice broken by emotion, hugged him tightly, as if he feared he might disappear again. With Giulia's help, Luca found his identity in his life again. Together, they decided to open a homeless shelter, offering a second chance to those in need. "We can't let others suffer like you did," Giulia told Luca. The shelter became a beacon of hope for many, a place where they could find warmth, food, and assistance to rebuild their lives. Every evening, Giulia and Luca told their story to the new arrivals. "No matter how dark the night seems," Luca said, "there is always hope to find the light again." Their story became an example of resilience and brotherly love, inspiring many not to give up. The shelter quickly became a hub in the community. Donations began pouring in from all over, and many people volunteered their time. Giulia and Luca also organized workshops and job reintegration programs to help the homeless regain their independence. One day, while they were serving dinner, an old man approached Luca. "Do you remember me?" the man asked. Luca looked at him carefully and then smiled. It was one of the men who had helped him in the first days after the accident, offering him a place in their homeless community. "I can't believe you're here," Luca said, hugging him. Giulia and Luca understood that the shelter was not just a physical place, but a symbol of hope and rebirth. They decided to expand their project, creating a network of shelters throughout the country. "Every person deserves a second chance," Giulia always said. Their story continued to touch the hearts of many. They received letters of thanks from families and individuals who had found hope thanks to their work. "Thanks to you, I have found my dignity again," wrote one woman who had managed to find a job and a home after living in the shelter. To support this initiative, Giulia and Luca began collaborating with other nonprofit organizations. They organized fundraising events and awareness campaigns to raise awareness about the issue of homelessness. They worked tirelessly to create a supportive community that could provide resources and opportunities to anyone in need. During one particularly harsh winter, the shelter welcomed more people than ever before. Giulia and Luca ensured that each guest had a warm bed, nutritious food, and access to healthcare services. Despite the hardships, their commitment and dedication never wavered. Among the guests of the shelter was also a young musician, Matteo, who had lost everything due to addiction. Thanks to the support of the shelter, Matteo was able to detox and resume his musical career. She decided to organize a benefit concert to raise funds for the shelter, and the event was a great success. The story of Giulia and Luca and their shelter became a beacon of hope on social media as well. Many people shared their experiences and joined the cause. The community created around the shelter continued to grow, proving that humanity and compassion can make a difference. If this story touched you, we invite you to watch our next video that delves into more stories of compassion and hope. Thanks for watching, and until next time.